Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little weird. You're going to follow the scent of sandalwood steam, an ancient protocol, all the way into the secret bathing chambers of Japan's imperial palaces. I know, that sounds oddly cozy for something that once involved celestial calendars, astrologers, and an unreasonable amount of finely ground plum blossom powder. And no, you're not just a fly on the wall. Tonight, you are the wall. You're the stone-tiled corner of a Heian bathhouse, watching centuries dissolve in hot vapor. Don't worry, we won't actually turn you into tile. But fair warning, the court nobles didn't believe in towels the way you do. You think you can survive the heat, the incense, and the ritual nudity. Honestly, you probably can't. But hey, that's the fun of it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where and when are you listening from? I'm betting some of you are halfway around the world, possibly in a bath. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drag your bare feet across cool cedar floors, the mist creeping out from sliding doors like a spirit looking for a story. Here, in the 10th century Heian court, bathing isn't about hygiene. It's closer to praying or summoning a god. Just ... with a lot more nudity. You enter a room paved with volcanic stone, warm and humming like it remembers centuries of whispers. At the center, a massive hinoki wood tub, big enough to swim in. Chrysanthemum patterns curl across the walls, blooming through the steam like silk ghosts. A young boy stands beside the tub, holding a lacquered bowl filled with something the color of toasted sesame. Not soap, it's sand mixed with powdered herbs, charred pine, ash, and a ridiculous amount of sandalwood oil. You lean in. It smells ... like enlightenment. And also like someone tried to distill an entire forest into a puddle. Before you can ask, a bell rings, long and low, like a gong dipped in velvet. The ritual has begun. You know me, no GI, the sacred bath of the emperor. Every move matters now. You sit, you face east. You don't cross your legs. This isn't spa day. It's celestial alignment. With exfoliation, the emperor hasn't arrived. Yet, you're the preparer, the one who warms the water and whispers to the steam. Important, but stressful. Especially when the mist keeps making your hair curl like overcooked ramen. You ladle the ingredients in slowly, in strict order. Water infused with arga wood, water drawn from a shrine-fed spring, and water boiled over peachwood fire. Each one must be added at its own hour, or the gods will apparently lose interest. When the emperor finally enters, you avert your eyes. Everyone does. He wears a sheer lavender robe, his step slow as if the ground might melt. The first splash of water echoes through the chamber like a ceremonial drum. Deep, deliberate, final. You don't look, but you feel it. The air shifts. The steam grows richer, somehow fuller. It smells like someone whispered a secret into a bottle and left it in the sun for 1,000 years. And now you understand, this isn't bathing to cleanse, this is bathing to connect. One of the court ladies leans close and murmurs that an empress once conceived twins after sipping a spoonful of this bathwater. You raise an eyebrow, but honestly ... you're starting to believe it. Midway through, the emperor motions toward a stone jug. You lift it and pour slowly. The water is clear and icy, yet steam rises as if it were warm. You blink. What is this? Snowmelt from the roof of the Eye's shrine. A maid says softly. Gathered on New Year's Day, aged 3 months in the dark. You're not sure whether to gasp or shiver. Probably both. In this moment, you realize you're standing in the middle of a ritual that blends time, weather, belief, and science, all poured into a single tub. They say bathing is the most personal thing a human does. Here, it's the most sacred. When the emperor rises, no towel touches him. He leaves wet, glistening in candlelight filtered through amber stones. You overhear someone whisper that one ruler once glowed with fragrance for 12 straight days after a bath like this. Historians still argue whether that was divine blessing or an overzealous perfume apprentice with shaky hands. You bow. He leaves. The room exhales. The steam remains. But now, you notice something different. It's not just mist. It's memory. In vapor form, history swirling around you, condensing on your skin like a secret you're not sure you were meant to know. And this was only the first night. You wake before dawn, or rather, you're woken, gently, by the clink of porcelain and the rustle of silk robes. The air is heavy, scented with last night's rituals still clinging to the beams above. Somewhere beyond the paper doors, a pair of cranes is calling to each other, like lovers arguing in code. You sit up slowly. You're not entirely sure where you are, but your skin still smells like sandalwood and secrets. A court attendant bows. She's maybe 12 years old, and already more intimidating than any adult you've met. The emperor's morning preparations, she says without emotion, like she's informing you the moon is still in the sky. Please follow. You follow, not with confidence, but with the resigned gait of someone who knows full well they might walk into another room, full of sacred steam and people who take bathwater astrology very seriously. Today's location, a smaller, more intimate chamber, no volcanic stone, no echoing ceilings, just a square tub carved directly into the floor, surrounded by white stones and an open window facing the east. You catch your breath. Dawn is just beginning to break, casting a golden haze through the steam. And you know, even before they explain it, that this bath is timed with the sunrise. The emperor enters, once again in a sheer robe, but this time he removes it, not with shame, with reverence. He steps into the water with a kind of slowness that makes time feel self-conscious. You don't look directly, but you can't not see. His body is ... slight, pale, more shadow than man in this light. This is the morning purification, a ritual not performed every day, but on chosen dates marked by lunar cycles, comet sightings, or sometimes just a weird dream the astrologer had. And today is one of those days. You're handed a wooden tray covered in dried flowers, chrysanthemum, camellia, and tiny shavings of agarwood bark. You hesitate. The lady beside you whispers, "Sprinkle clockwise, starting north." You do. The petals float, then vanish beneath the ripples. The scent that rises is ... sharp, almost electric. You feel it behind your eyes. The emperor begins to speak, not to you, to no one, and to everything. A low, rhythmic chant in old Japanese that sounds like honey being poured over gravel. It's a prayer, yes, but also a kind of dialogue. Not words to the gods, but with them. You notice now that there are 12 small cups set along the rim of the bath, each filled with a different perfume oil. They're meant to represent the 12 months of the year. The emperor dips a finger in one: June, citrus and early rain. He rubs it along his shoulder. Then July, plum wine and moss. You're handed a cloth, not to scrub, to cool. A square of silk soaked in chilled rosewater. You press it to his back carefully, quietly, and you think, this man carries a kingdom on his shoulders. And yet, here he is, letting strangers press damp napkins to his spine before breakfast. And then, a mistake. Not yours. Someone else in the room. A court boy sneezes. Everything freezes. You've never seen a room stop breathing before, but now you have. The emperor looks up. No anger, just ... silence. And then he smiles. The gods must be tickled, he says. Laughter breaks the air like a bird finally allowed to flap its wings. Everyone relaxes. The boy looks like he's aged a year and 5 seconds. You learn later that this emperor, Emperor Rise, was known for his gentle rituals, but also for certain eccentricities. Rumors say he once demanded his bath be scented only with chrysanthemum, harvested by left-handed virgins, that he banned pine-scented oils after a dream in which a pine tree insulted him, that he insisted on having his ears dried with rabbit fur. Historians still debate the truth of all this. Some call it myth. Others say it reflects the spiritual fragility of the court, a culture so delicate that even sneeze etiquette was political. The bath ends as the sun clears the eaves. The emperor steps out, dripping in golden shadow. His robe is warm, lined with silk woven from moth cocoons, a material said to hold dreams if you sleep in it. You help pack the flower tray, now soaked and limp. The scent remains. It clings to your fingers, your sleeves, your memory. Outside, the garden is waking. Lotus flowers unfurl. Crickets go quiet. A breeze rolls in, carrying something fresh, like the smell of paper before ink touches it. You realize you've just participated in something so absurdly beautiful it might never make sense to you again. But for this moment, you're grateful. You smell like 11 centuries ago, and you're okay with that. You think you're getting used to it. The heat, the rhythm, the quiet chaos of rituals that seem invented not for logic but for poetry. But this morning is different. The mood is heavier, like the air is soaked in something more than steam. You can feel it in your bones before you hear it. Today, the emperor will bathe before the gods, not in metaphor, not in prayer, literally, in front of a shrine within the bath chamber itself. This is not the usual purification. This is mizaji, an old rite, rare, reserved for eclipses, coronations, or, as in this case, spiritual unrest. Something is wrong in the stars. Someone dreamed of crows flying backward, and so, they bathe. You enter the chamber an hour before anyone else. Your job is to prepare the altar. It's a stone platform at the far end of the room, just above the waterline, carved with lotus petals and ancient congee. Upon it, you lay offerings, folded silk sake, in a black glazed cup, a strand of human hair braided with rice straw. Don't ask whose hair. You don't want to know. The bath itself is shallow, wide, cold, unlike the usual warm luxury. This one is meant to shock the body, to strip away comfort and bring the soul closer to its trembling edge. You step in just to test it and instantly regret every life choice. It feels like ice water filtered through regret. As the others enter, everything grows silent. The emperor arrives barefoot, wrapped in white. No robe, no color. He looks less like a ruler and more like a ghost who forgot how to haunt. He steps into the water without hesitation. You hold your breath. Everyone does. He sits cross-legged. The water barely reaches his hips. He doesn't flinch, doesn't move. A monk begins to chant. You've heard chanting before, but this is deeper, lower. It resonates in your stomach, in your teeth. Like the room itself is humming through your bones. The ritual begins. A court official approaches with a bowl of black ink. It's made from pine soot, sake, and ground oyster shell. You hand it over. The official dips a brush and begins to draw on the emperor's chest. Not symbols, not art, just one long stroke down the sternum. Then a horizontal line across the abdomen. You don't need to be told what it means. A cross, not Christian, obviously, but symbolic. The body as temple. The soul at the intersection of earth and sky. Clean the cross, clean the curse. Now it's your turn. You take a ladle of water and pour it gently from behind the emperor's shoulder. It runs down the ink, blurring it like old paint in the rain. More ladles follow. Each person in the room repeats the action, one by one, in silence. It takes an hour. The ink fades. The water darkens. The emperor doesn't move. There's a moment, maybe 2 seconds, where everything pauses. No sound, no movement. You swear, even the steam stops rising. Then, a breath. The emperor inhales deeply, and the room collectively exhales like a forest of ghosts being released. A priest steps forward, holding a long sprig of sakaki leaves. He dips them in the water and sweeps them over the emperor's back 3 times. Each stroke is slow, deliberate, like the wind combing through grass. This is the climax. The literal cleansing of fate. You think back to what you were told. When you first entered court service, a bath may wash the body, but a ritual may rinse the century. No one explains what that means. But standing here watching droplets fall from sacred leaves onto a man who carries the weight of the sun goddess in his bloodline. It kind of makes sense. There's a rumor whispered from chambermaids too, cooks to scribes, that this ritual was once used to decide whether an emperor should live or abdicate, that the outcome of the bath could determine the survival of a dynasty. Historians still debate it. Of course they do. There's no record, no edict, just silence and legend, and the fact that sometimes emperors simply vanished afterward, resigned, disappeared into monasteries, or into rumors, or into poems. When the water ritual ends, the emperor rises. His skin is blotched red from cold, his hair drips like willow branches, but his face is unreadable, like a mask carved from moonlight. He leaves without a word. You stay behind to drain the bath. It takes an hour. The water is no longer clear. It's tinted, not with blood, but with ink and memory, and perhaps something else that doesn't have a name. That's the last of it slips into the stone drain. You catch your own reflection in the slick bottom of the tub. You don't quite recognize yourself. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this isn't just about the emperor. Maybe this ritual pulls at everyone who enters, not to cleanse, but to reveal. And you're starting to feel just a little more transparent. You wake to the sound of giggling. It's not the usual monastic silence or the haunting echo of ancient chants. It's actual, unfiltered, unroyal giggles, high-pitched mischievous, somewhere between joy and scandal. You sit up, a little dizzy from last night's incense overload, and peek through the lattice screen. It's the ladies of the inner court, and they're making soap. Well, not soap, like you know it. Not white bubbly bars from a drugstore. This is more, floral alchemy. One of them is mashing plum blossoms in a lacquered bowl with something dark and sticky. Another is shredding strips of cedar bark into a pot of steaming liquid. The room smells like fruit, smoke, and the kind of mystery that usually gets people arrested in modern spy novels. You're called in, not to help, obviously. You're still low-ranking, somewhere between useful towel rack and person who scrapes melted wax from ceremonial candles. But today, you're being allowed to observe, which, in court language, means don't talk, don't move too much, and absolutely don't sneeze. The chief perfumer, an elderly woman who looks like she was born in the Edo period, even though this is Heian, gestures toward a set of ivory bottles. Each emperor, she says, has his own scent. You blink, like a signature cologne. She frowns, like destiny. Right. Obviously she holds up a vial filled with thick amber oil. This, she says, is the emperor's base. You lean closer. The smell hits you like nostalgia. Earthy, floral, a little sour. In a way that makes your heart hurt for reasons you don't understand. Plum blossoms, she explains, harvested only at night, crushed with sugar and a touch of burned persimmon. Leaf. You glance around. The other attendants are now pouring that mixture into a vat of melted wax and powdered pearl. It's not just a cleanser, it's a brew, and the emperor bathes in it once a month, on a day chosen by divination, and you guessed it, moon phase. Always a waning crescent. You watch as one of the court women dips a fine linen cloth into the plum oil mixture, wrings it gently, and drapes it over a heated stone bowl. The aroma rises. It smells like February in a garden no one is allowed to visit. This is the soap, or rather, this is the pre-soap, because in the court, cleansing isn't a one-step process. First comes the fragrance infusion, then the herbal scrub, then the powdered starch massage, then, and only then, the rinse with Snowmelt water. You've read about the famous Heian diaries, pillow books, poetic journals, all full of longing and layers of metaphor. What they don't tell you is that behind every melancholy poem about cherry blossoms falling in the rain, there was a 3-hour bath involving milk, salt, and elbow grease. Today's ritual is for the empress consort. She's preparing for a festival, and apparently, one must be spiritually and dermatologically radiant. She enters the chamber with 4 ladies in tow, each carrying a wooden box. One has her hairpins, another has her robe, the third carries 2 rabbits. You don't ask. The fourth, she carries more soap. The bathing begins. Not in silence, but in low, musical chatter. The women talk about last night's dreams, about a star that appeared near Mars, about how the Minister of Rites walked into a door again. It's strangely normal. And yet, everything is carefully choreographed. The Empress's hair, floor-length and gleaming, is braided loosely and draped over a curved tray. Her skin is gently exfoliated with a mixture of rice bran and yuzu zest. One lady reads poetry while another sprinkles crushed plum petals into the water like a blessing. You're struck by how private it all feels, and yet how communal. There's no shame, no rush, just the slow unfolding of a ritual designed not to cleanse but to reveal. A preparation not for the public, but for the self. And maybe that's the difference. Bathing here isn't about removing dirt, it's about adjusting spirit, realigning aroma, reconnecting with the divine. Through your pores, there's a popular story, whispered through generations, about an emperor who refused to bathe with the plum blossom soap. He claimed it made him dream too vividly, that he saw a woman he loved in a past life and woke up weeping into his pillow. Historians still argue over whether that emperor was Rize or Go-Sanjo, or whether the whole story was a metaphor for heartbreak or eczema. The soap is removed, the steam lingers, the empress is wrapped in robes, dyed with safflower and smoke. Her skin glows faintly in the lamplight, and for a moment, you understand why legends say the imperial women were descended from moonlight. You helped clean up, fold cloths, wipe bowls. Your hands are sticky with blossom oil, and you kind of hope they never lose that scent. That night, as you sit alone outside your quarters, a plum petal falls from your sleeve. You stare at it, oddly moved. You've never felt so clean. You've learned to keep your head down. Literally. especially when walking through the western wing of the palace, the part nobody talks about unless they're whispering. That's where the regents live, the Fujiwara clan, the real power, behind the fan, so to speak. And tonight, you've been summoned there, no explanation, just a folded note with a chrysanthemum seal and the words, "Midnight, Bathhouse 3, don't be late." You'd rather walk barefoot through a snowstorm wrapped in wet paper than arrive late. Bathhouse 3 is older than the others, less fragrant, less ceremonial. The stones are cracked, and the air smells like old ink and sharpened pine needles. You slip through the side entrance, heart thudding, half hoping this is a prank. It's not. He's already there. Regent Fujiwara, no Korechika, tall, fox-eyed and barefoot, standing waist-deep in a tub of water, so still it reflects the rafters, above like glass. Around him, incense burns from a shallow basin carved with scenes of conquest. Not your usual bath. No attendants, no prayers, just him, a bottle of something dark. And you're early, he says. You bow so quickly, your vision goes blurry. Good. He gestures for you to sit on the warm slate by the tub. Not close, not far, like a witness. You oblige, hands folded, trying not to sweat into the sacred stones. He uncorks the bottle. You expect perfume. What you get is the sharp, slightly sweet smell of boiled silkworms and fermented mulberry leaf. He pours it into the water. The surface ripples slightly, like the tub itself has opinions. "This," he says, "is a preparation my grandfather taught me, from the northern provinces. Enhances clarity, softens the skin, reveals intention." You nod, pretending that makes perfect sense. He closes his eyes. "When I was a boy, I used to dream of becoming emperor," he says quietly. "Not through birthright, through design." He scoops water over his shoulders. It rolls off his skin like polished lacquer. The first step was this bath. You blink. Is he confessing or threatening? He chuckles, as if reading your thoughts. "Don't worry, I gave up those dreams. Mostly." The water darkens slightly. Not from dirt, from the liquid he poured. The scent thickens into something, almost metallic. Behind him, a shelf holds folded parchment, inkstone brushes. "This is where I write my orders," he says, as though that's normal. Policies, marriage arrangements, even declarations of war. You glance around. In the bath, he raises an eyebrow. Where else can a man be fully honest? You think of all the times you've heard palace servants claim that no Korechika was a shadow emperor, more decisive than the child king he advised. They say he once reversed an entire tax reform because a dream told him the people would revolt. They say he keeps a fox skull under his pillow. Historians are still divided. Some say he was a visionary. Others say he bathed in mulberry wine and thought he was a ghost. There's really no middle ground. He rises. Water trails down his body in perfect lines. His skin glows faintly, not with health, but with something else, like wax or prophecy. He steps out and wraps himself in a simple grey robe. No emblem, no crest, just plain silk, like a monk who moonlights as a chess master. "You saw nothing," he says, already turning to leave. You bow, of course. "But you did see something, not power." "Exactly, not madness. Something in between. A man who treats bathing as a strategy session, a ritual of focus, and maybe, just maybe, a charm against the enemies he's too clever to name out loud." You linger after he's gone. The water in the tub shimmers faintly. A layer of oils floats on top, forming strange curling shapes, like characters or creatures. You don't touch it. Later, as you return to your quarters, you hear two senior attendants whispering near the kitchen. "He's done it again," one says. "Ordered the Minister of Poetry exiled, right after his bath." The other nods. "He always decides things when his skin smells like silkworms." You don't sleep well that night because now you know. Not all imperial baths are for purity. Some are for power. The scent hits you before the door even opens. It's not floral, not herbal, not even clean. It's smokier, like the ghost of an old library was set gently on fire and told to relax. The smell of ashen ink, mixed with something faintly metallic. You hesitate. Tonight's bathing chamber is unlike anything you've seen. The floor is black slate, veined with pale gold. The walls are draped in sheer fabric, painted with moon phases. In the center, a shallow rectangular basin, not of water, but of smooth white sand, and sitting in the middle of it, cross-legged, is Emperor Kazan. He's not naked, not robed. He's wrapped in parchment, not metaphorically, literally. Long overlapping scrolls of calligraphy encase his body like a second skin. His face is bare, but his torso is swaddled in ink-stained paper, glistening slightly under the dim oil lamps. You don't breathe. The room feels like a spell. Half-caste, a court scribe beside you whispers, "This is the ash bath." You blink. There's no water. He nods. No need. The ink carries memory. The ash erases. Sure, makes perfect sense. You're told to remain still, watch only. No speaking, no coughing, no blinking, if you can help it. Two attendants approach. The emperor, each carrying small bowls, one filled with fine grey ash from burned sutras, the other, thick black ink, drawn from the foot of a sacred pine struck by lightning. He didn't even know that was a thing. But okay. The attendants begin. With brushes as thin as eyelashes, they draw lines along his skin, over the scrolls. Not characters, not art, just lines, parallel, endless, almost like they're covering something up. You realize, this isn't a bath for the body, it's for the record, a cleansing of guilt, a redaction of memory. Kazan's eyes are closed. His breath is steady. The ink seeps into the parchment, dripping slightly where it meets his skin. Then, the ash, they sprinkle it from above. A fine cascade like dark snow, dusting his shoulders, his head. It catches in the folds of the scrolls, like time caught in scripture. He murmurs something, low, a chant, maybe, or a poem. You don't understand the words, but you feel them in your chest, like soft knocks on an old wooden door. You wonder, how many emperors have performed this ritual? How many regrets have been soothed, not with confession, but with soot and silence? There's a rumor whispered, never written, that Emperor Kazan abdicated, not because of politics, but because of dreams in which he was reborn each night, always forgetting who he was, always waking up with ink on his hands. Some scholars say he was mad. Others claim he was the most lucid emperor of his age, that he understood the burden of legacy so deeply he chose to unwrite parts of himself. The ash bath, they say, is forbidden now, too symbolic, too fragile, too close to heresy, depending on who's watching. But tonight, you're watching. The attendants bow, then slowly begin to peel the scrolls from his body, one layer at a time. Each is dropped into a bronze brazier, where it catches flame and curls into nothing. The ink burns blue. The emperor does not flinch. His skin is pale and marked with faint lines, not wounds, but impressions, traces of the past that no longer belong to him. At the end, he rises. Ash falls from his shoulders like winter. He walks barefoot across the sand, each step erasing the one before. You glance at the stone bowl where the ashes were kept. It's empty now, except for a single brush. The bristles are burned, the handle cracked, useless. And yet somehow sacred. Later, as you clean the chamber, you find a fragment of one of the scrolls that didn't burn completely. You pick it up. Only one word remains legible. Forget. You set it back down and let it go. You never expected to be nose-deep in perfume this early. It's still dark out. The courtyard lanterns flicker with tired embers, and the air is thick with dew and anticipation. You're standing outside the fragrance pavilion, which, let's be honest, sounds like a fancy name for a scented closet. But once you step inside, your lungs immediately revolt from the overload of aroma. Cedar, clove, myrrh, and something, sharp and citrusy, that punches you right behind the eyes. Inside, a group of men and women, not nobles, not monks, are sitting in two perfect rows, blindfolded. This is the training. You've heard whispers of it. Not every guard is chosen for strength. Not every spy is trained with blades. Some are trained with scent. Welcome to the Imperial Nose School. You're not supposed to be here, but your name was on a scroll, misplaced, miswritten, or maybe misinterpreted. And now you're part of tonight's ritual. Just keep breathing, preferably through your mouth. A stern woman with an unsettlingly calm voice explains. You will smell 12 oils. You will identify 6. You will match each to its courtly owner. If you fail, you will return to rice-stirring duty. Great. No pressure. The first vial is uncorked. You get a deep whiff of mountain air. No sandalwood, but lighter, with hints of snowmelt and rust. That has to be the minister of the treasury. He always smells like old paper and anxiety. The second is trickier. It's floral, but corrupted like lilies soaked in ink. Your head swims. The chief archivist, maybe. or the princess of the West Wing, who's rumored to wear perfume made from inkstones and rare moss. You're guessing. Everyone's guessing. But not the man sitting at the center. He's blindfolded like the rest, but his face is still composed. He names each vial instantly. April evening, Cyprus, the Chancellor's mistress. His voice is monotone, chilling. You recognize him, sort of. He's one of the Emperor's private guards, rumored to have no sense of fear, or humor, or modesty. He continues flawlessly. Mint from southern fields. Night-blooming jasmine. Second son of the regent's concubine. You're pretty sure he just identified someone by how their illegitimacy smells. By the 6th vial, your head is spinning, but the instructor doesn't stop. She lifts a new bottle, and this time, doesn't pass it around. She merely uncaps it, lets the scent fill the air. The room stiffens. You smell ... firewood, ink, a hint of sweat, and something like ... iron. The Emperor's battle scent. The man says, you frown. The Emperor hasn't gone to battle in decades. He turns towards you blindfold still. On exactly, you don't sleep that night. Instead, you follow the scent, because now you understand. Fragrance isn't just for beauty, it's information, identity, power. You start noticing patterns. The courtiers who wear rose oil always speak slowly. The ones with citrus, more likely to lie. Those who smell like cinnamon, usually plotting something, probably involving marriage. One night, you pass a hall where a letter is being written. No ink, just sent a coded message in perfume. 2 dabs of lavender, 1 of agarwood, a touch of burnt orange peel, delivered to the Emperor's chamber via sleeve. Later that week, the Minister of Ceremonies retires early. His health, they say. You suspect otherwise. There's a story rarely shared, always whispered about a spy who infiltrated the court for 7 years undetected. Until one day, a maid noticed he smelled like pine in summer. No pine tree releases scent in summer. He was gone by dawn. Historians still argue if that tale is true. Some claim it's just a metaphor for the paranoia of scent politics. Others believe there's an entire underground archive of smells, locked in scrolls, sealed in wax used to record secret transactions. What you do know is this: every bath, every oil, every incense stick in the palace carries meaning. And if you're not careful, your scent will betray you before your tongue ever gets the chance. You start sleeping in your clothes. You wash with plain water. You avoid all oils. You become, in a way, unscented. Invisible. One evening, a servant pulls you aside and says, you smell like nothing. You smile. Thank you. They don't smile back. Be careful. Nothing is the rarest scent of all. You are summoned by a bell that doesn't chime. It hums, low and slow, like a wind instrument played underwater. That sound means one thing: it's the first day of the lunar cycle. And tonight, the Emperor bathed again. You thought he bathed often already, but this is different. This is the official monthly soak, the one aligned with the stars, the one no one speaks during PTO, and the one where you're not allowed to blink too loudly. You make your way to the northern hall, the tide room, they call it. Not because it's near the ocean, it isn't, but because when the tub is full, the surface tension pulls like the moon. That's how serious this is. The tub itself is sunk into the marble, octagonal, lined with silver, and surrounded by 8 stone sculptures: dragons, phoenixes, turtles, tigers, the celestial beasts, their mouths open over the edge of the bath, each set to release a different kind of water. You've been told they never flow at the same time. That would be an omen. Tonight, you were on steam duty, which sounds chill until you realize it involves walking around the perimeter with a lacquered fan, gently stirring the mist so it forms an even haze. Too thin, and the Emperor might catch a cold. Too thick, and he could trip stepping in. There's a legend that once, an emperor slipped during a bath and declared war on the province that crafted the tiles. That province no longer exists, so you fan. The ritual begins the moment the Emperor arrives. You can tell it's him, not because of trumpets or shouting, but because the room suddenly smells like summer rain on old silk. He disrobes, not hurried, not showy, like a shadow shedding itself. The water has been drawn for days. It started as mountain snow, carried in small increments by silent couriers, melted in ceramic pots lined with rice husk, infused with gold flakes and the petals of camellias that bloom only once a decade, not for scent, for luck. You've never seen anyone step into water so slowly. one toe, then pause, one foot, then stillness, as if time itself needs to adjust to his presence. He sits, no one speaks. From the side, a court astrologer begins to chant the lunar verses. They don't make much sense, something about cranes flying backward and clouds shaped like gongs. But the rhythm is hypnotic. You forget your body, forget the fan in your hand. You become mist yourself. The dragons release warm mineral water, the phoenixes, cold spring dew, the turtles, salt water tinged with kelp, the tigers, you're not sure, but it smells faintly of bamboo and thunder. They pour over the emperor's shoulders in intervals, rhythmic, measured, like seasons in liquid form. This is not a bath for cleaning, it's alignment. Each month, the emperor must resync with the calendar, physically, spiritually, dermally. This bath is part clock, part prayer, part government policy. If he skips it, the court might fall into chaos. Crops fail, ministers argue, someone misfiles the poetry schedule. You've heard stories of months when the emperor was ill and the bath had to be performed with an effigy. A straw doll, blessed by monks, soaked in proxy. It didn't work. The entire capital experienced hiccups for 3 days. All at once. Unconfirmed, of course. Historians still debate the real purpose of this ritual. Some say it was a symbolic birth, the womb of purity. Others believe it was simply good PR. But standing here now, watching warm mist rise around a man whose body holds the fate of an entire island nation, you're not sure it matters. This is devotion. This is theater. This is both. The emperor tilts his head back. His hair fans out in the water like calligraphy on ink-washed paper. For a moment, you swear you see characters forming in the ripples. A poem, a warning, or maybe you're just inhaling too much steam. The final phase begins. A priestess approaches, with a reed brush dipped in milky lotion made from crushed lotus seeds and powdered coral. She paints his arms, his neck, the arches of his feet, slow, reverent strokes. You wonder what that feels like, to be brushed into renewal. The emperor stands, drops fall from him like seconds lost. He says nothing, just walks out, wrapped not in cloth, but in the scent of rivers and resolve. You're told to remain behind, drain the bath, wipe the statues, fold the robes. You do it without thought, as if sleepwalking through a sacred dream. Later, in the dark, you notice something in your sleeve pocket, a single camellia petal, still warm, still pulsing faintly. You press it between your palms and whisper to it like a secret. Whatever it heard tonight, it's carrying it now. And maybe, ... so are you. There's something wrong with the moon tonight. Not bad wrong, just too perfect. A full disk, glowing like it was scrubbed and polished just for this moment. The clouds stayed respectfully out of the way. The crickets hush. Even the wind seems to pause, unsure whether it's invited. And somehow, you know, this isn't going to be a normal bath. You're right, you've been assigned to a garden. Pavilion you didn't even know existed, hidden past the iris marshes, beyond a bamboo grove. It looks like a dream someone forgot to write down. Lanterns hang like stars trapped in amber. The floor is woven reeds, and the bath itself, not a tub, a pool, shallow, round, lit from beneath, by fireflies trapped in glass bowls, and beside it, a girl. Well, not a girl, a woman, but not quite of this world. She sits on a low stool, combing hair that falls well past her knees, hair silver as moonlight soaked in milk. She doesn't notice you at first, or pretends not to. You hesitate, but an attendant behind you nods. Go. You step forward. She turns. Her eyes are pale, not grey, not blue, but the color of reflection, like the moment before a tear. You're here, she says simply. Not like a welcome, like a fact. This is the Moon Princess. You've heard rumors that she bathes only once each month, on the brightest night, that she drinks nothing but dew, that her heartbeat syncs with lunar tides. Some say she's the emperor's cousin, others, his lost love. A few whisper she's not real at all, a ghost given form through ritual and perfume. Historians still argue, of course. One even wrote a scroll titled Lunar Consorts and Other Courtly Delusions. He disappeared 2 weeks after publication. The princess rises and steps into the pool. The water barely ripples. You're handed a clay jug, warm, heavy, filled with sweet white liquid. Rice milk. She raises her arms. You begin to pour. It flows over her shoulders in slow, creamy ribbons, down her spine, across her collarbone. The scent is faint, jasmine, and something faintly metallic like stardust. If stardust had a smell, no scrubbing, no rinsing, just pouring. The milk clings to her skin, forming soft patterns that change with every breath. She closes her eyes. You're not sure how long you pour. It could be minutes or centuries. Then, softly she speaks. When I was young, she says, they told me the moon was my mother, that my body followed her rhythm, and my mind, her phases. I used to bathe to remember her. She opens her eyes. Now I bathe, so I don't forget myself. You don't know how to respond, so you don't. You just pour. The ritual ends when the jug is empty. She steps out, unbothered by the air or the eyes. An attendant brings her a robe, spun from silk, so fine it vanishes when held to the light. She wraps it slowly, deliberately, like a curtain falling at the end of a play. She turns to you, holds out her hand. You freeze. Then she places something into your palm, a hairpin. Simple, silver, shaped like a crescent moon. A gift, she says, for remembering how to be gentle. And then she's gone. You stand alone by the milky pool, fireflies blinking beneath your feet, moonlight painting your shoulders. The wind returns. Later, when you try to describe it, people will smile politely and nod. They'll assume you dreamed it, or misremembered, or inhaled too much jasmine steam. But you still have the pin. And sometimes, just before sleep, you think you hear her voice again, soft, like a tide inside your chest, and you remember. Not all bathing is about purification. Some is about remembering who you are, or who you once were, or who you've always been. Under moonlight, you are handed the bucket at noon, told to walk. No explanation, just a gesture toward the western gate and the word, go. The bucket is small, wooden, empty, except for a folded silk pouch at the bottom. The pouch smells faintly of pine, needles and old promises. You don't ask questions. The messenger walks ahead of you in silence, through the rice fields, over the footbridges, past the last of the garden lanterns, and finally, into the woods. You walk for hours. The palace disappears behind you. So does sound. So does time. And then, there it is. A spring, not large, not grand. Just a narrow rivulet of water trickling down a moss-covered rock into a crystal pool, no bigger than a dinner table. You've arrived. The sacred source. This isn't just any spring. This is Shiratori no Izumi, the spring of the white bird, hidden deep in the mountains of Kyushu. Legend says its waters were first touched by a crane that flew backward across the moon. Whatever that means. You kneel, wash your hands, untie the pouch. Inside, a small silver ladle, engraved with a date that hasn't happened yet. You don't understand. That's fine. You collect the water carefully. Not just surface water. You have to dip down, beneath the flow, where the spring begins. It's cold enough to sting, sweet enough to taste like a forgotten song. When the bucket is full, the messenger nods. You turn, you walk back. This time, everything feels different. The trees lean in. The light filters soft and blue. Even your feet seem quieter. You're holding history. Back at the palace, the air is still, expectant. You're guided to the bath of the 1,000 miles. A deep stone cistern beneath the hall of plum shadows. It's dark, almost cave-like, lit only by floating lamps, each one representing a season. You carry the bucket to the edge, pour it in. It hisses, not like heat, like relief. The sacred water meets the ritual. Mix already waiting. A stew of medicinal herbs, crushed pearls, and the ashes of last year's New Year's poems. Don't ask, it's symbolic. The emperor enters in silence. He wears only a sash made of braided reeds. His hair is tied with red string, the color of rebirth. He steps into the bath. The reaction is immediate. The water glows faintly, not in the magical way, but in that minerals meeting minerals sort of way, like something ancient is waking up or exhaling. He kneels, lowers himself, submerges to the neck, and then nothing. No words, no gestures. He just sits. For 100 breaths, you count. It's harder than you'd think. The steam curls around him like memory. The lights dim, or maybe your eyes do. And still he sits. You've heard this bath happens only once every 12 years, that it marks the reset of the imperial soul, that emperors who skip it have shorter reigns, or longer regrets. Historians don't write about this bath, not directly. They mention ritual immersions and seasonal recalibrations, but no one really knows what happens in the chamber. Until now. You do. You know that the emperor doesn't bathe in the water, he bathes with it, like two old friends. Finally speaking after a long silence, he emerges, not cleaner, but clearer. As if the dust of years has been rinsed, not from his body, but from his intentions. He exits, says nothing. You are left to drain the pool. It takes all night. The final drops are caught in linen, and buried in the garden's northeast corner, the direction of origin. According to palace geomancers, you sleep on the stone floor afterward. And when you wake, you are no longer the same, neither is he, because this bath wasn't about hygiene, it was about memory, and once memory touches water, it never fully leaves. You wake to the sound of music, not flutes, not lutes, not anything with strings or reeds. No, this is deeper, circular, metallic. You follow it down a stone hallway lit only by pale dawn and moths who've lost interest in the lamps. It's like walking through a dream half remembered. You arrive at the chamber of singing bowls. You've heard of it, a bath not drawn with water, but with sound. The room is round, domed, and impossibly still. The center holds a shallow basin of rainwater collected from last night's first storm of spring. Around it, 12 bronze bowls, each the size of a melon, placed on pedestals in perfect symmetry, each tuned to a different frequency, each one alive. The emperor sits at the edge of the basin, his robe already off, his body calm but alert, like a cat at peace, but not asleep. You join the attendants. One by one, they strike the bowls, with padded mallets. Softly. The sound spreads like ink in silk. You feel it before you hear it, a low vibration in your ribs, your throat, even the tiny bones behind your ears. Not music, not exactly, more like language that doesn't use words. The water in the basin ripples in sync, forming patterns that look suspiciously like flowers trying to bloom. Then comes the dew. Literally. A court herbalist enters, holding a clay pot filled with tiny drops of morning dew, gathered from lotus leaves before the sun rose. She tips the pot into the basin. The droplets strike the surface, and the water responds, not with splashes, but with harmony. The emperor lowers himself in. This is not a bath in the usual sense. There's no soap, no scent, no warmth. The water is cool, almost too cool. But the air hums with vibration. Every note echoes through the chamber like a whisper repeated by stones. You are handed a bowl, you strike it, it sings, and the sound meets his skin. Literally, the water around the emperor ripples at the exact pitch of the bowl. His shoulder shivers, just slightly, as if tuning to the note. This continues for half an hour, each bowl, each note, each part of the body, aligning with vibration. You think about all the rituals you've witnessed so far, the milk, the steam, the oils and ash, and yet somehow this feels more complete, less visible, more felt. The legend says this bath harmonizes the soul, that emperors who skip it fall out of alignment, not just physically, but cosmically. One fell into such dissonance, they say, that his voice began to echo seconds before he spoke. Historians laugh at that, and yet the room is so quiet now that even your heartbeat sounds intrusive. Finally, the emperor rises, no towel, no robe, just mist and music clinging to him like a second skin. He bows to no one in particular, and to everything all at once. You bow back, because you feel it too, a soft humming in your spine. The sense that something inside you, is no longer off-key. You stay behind to clean the bowls. You're told to wipe them only with cloth soaked in chrysanthemum wine. You ask why. You're told not to ask. Each bowl hums faintly as you touch it, as if remembering you, or maybe warning you, or maybe just saying hello. That night, you hum a note before sleep, just one, and feel the room respond, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to know you're not alone. The water is already red when you arrive, not blood red, no, it's brighter than that, to clean, to deliberate. It glows faintly in the lantern light, like a lacquer bowl full of crushed camellias. But you smell no flowers, only eucalyptus, and something bitter underneath, like medicine, or endings. You were not supposed to be here tonight. This bath was not on the calendar, no moon phase, no ceremony. You were pulled from sleep by a page with wild eyes, and a whisper that didn't sound like his own voice. The emperor, he's in the cedar chamber, alone. That word alone is not used lightly in the court. Emperors are never alone. Someone always watches. records, fans the steam. You rush through the empty hallways, the floors too quiet, the guards are missing from their posts. The corridors don't echo right. And then you see it. The bath door, half open, light spilling out in unnatural stillness. He's there in the water, still, his back to you. No attendants, no priests, no guards. Just one candle lit and a single dish of crushed herbs sitting untouched on the edge of the tub that the Emperor Go sat pure. They say known for his reforms, his fevers, his quiet eyes, his motionless arms resting on the rim, eyes closed, chest barely rising. You step inside. Very slowly. There's a note beside the tub, written in a hand to calm. One sentence. What cannot be cleansed must be concluded. You freeze. Behind you a second courtier enters, older, shaking. He stares at the water. No ceremony, he whispers. You shake your head. No incense, no music. He exhales through his nose. Then it's true. He kneels, begins chanting softly, not a prayer, a lullaby. You realize this isn't a mistake. This is a decision, a ritual, yes, but one not meant for public eyes. A farewell, a cleansing of consequence. There are whispers that some emperors do this, quietly, deliberately, when they believe they've overstayed their place, when the signs point to decline, when illness creeps in and dreams go unanswered. They choose the bath. Not to die in, no, to release in. To float the burden away, and afterward, to vanish. You're told to sit, to wait, to witness, but not intervene. You're handed a robe, not for him, but to place on the stone when he leaves. If he leaves, the candle burns lower, the room feels thinner. And then he speaks. You remember the camellia bloom 2 winters ago? He asks. You nod, unsure if he's talking to you or someone long dead. They said it bloomed too early. Bad omen, but it was just ... beautiful. I think ... maybe not every bad sign means the world is ending. A pause, but some do. He smiles faintly. I think I've been too clean, and not clean enough. Then silence for 1 minute, 2. 3. And then a breath, a splash. He stands, alive. The water runs down his body, like red paint, sliding off porcelain. He steps out. You place the robe on the stone. He doesn't take it, just walks past, dripping, pauses at the door. This bath ends a chapter, not a dynasty. You bow low. So does the older man. No one speaks again. You drained the water yourself. There's no protocol for this, just instinct. The scent lingers long after. 4 days afterward, the emperor is absent. They say he's taken vows, become a monk, moved into the western hills. Announcements. No procession. Just silence. Historians are unsure what to make of this. Some claim he abdicated out of piety. Others say illness. Some whisper betrayal. But those who were there, the 2 of you, you know, he bathed, and in doing so, he ended something. Not himself, but the weight he carried, and that too is a form of cleansing. You've heard the story before, but tonight it feels different. Maybe it's the wind, sharp, restless, or the fact that no one will look you in the eye as you walk the corridor toward the south gate. Maybe it's the faint trail of incense, drifting like a question that refuses to be asked. The story goes like this. A servant hears splashing at midnight. Not unusual. The emperor was known to bathe late, but the servant enters the chamber, and no one is there, just water rippling still warm, and the faint scent of sandalwood and lilies. They say he never left the room, that even now, on certain nights, if the moon is right and the door is left slightly ajar, the water moves on its own. That sometimes the scent appears first, then the breeze, then the voice. Tonight is one of those nights. You've been asked to check the old THOUSE. Not the grand halls, not the ceremonial tubs. The first bathhouse, the one built when the capital was still a collection of damp dreams and superstition. It hasn't been used in years. Too small, too plain, too forgotten. But not tonight. The door is open. You step in. The room is colder than it should be. The air is damp, but the stones are dry. The lanterns are out, but somehow there's light, pale, soft, the color of breath. The bath is full. No steam, no sound. Just water, just still. You approach slowly, unsure if you should call out, or run, or bow. But your body moves forward, and your mouth stays closed. And then you hear it. A splash, a soft ripple, like someone shifted, just slightly, under the surface. But there's no one there. No robes, no crown, just an impression in the water. The outline of a man, head tilted, eyes closed, as if dreaming. You blink, it's gone. Only the water remains, and the scent. Not strong, faint, familiar, plum blossom, camphor. The exact blend used during Emperor Kameyama's reign. You were never told much about him, just that he ruled briefly, gave up the throne, took vows, died quietly. Except some say he didn't die at all. They say he found a way to slip between moments, to linger in the rituals that made him feel real. That in his final days, he performed a bath, not for cleansing, not for memory, not even for rebirth, but for removal, to leave the world the way steam leaves stone, slowly, invisibly, and with just enough scent to be remembered. You sit beside the bath, just to listen, to feel, and then the voice, quiet, right behind your left ear. The body forgets, but the water doesn't. You whip around, nothing, no wind, no shadow, only your own breath, and the soft movement of the water as it settles back into stillness. You leave the room slowly, you do not close the door. Later that night, a young scribe will walk past and smell something strange, maybe, and write a note that says, "Someone used the bath." He'll file it away. No one will follow up because they all know. Some emperors bathed once and were never seen again. Some emperors still do. The boy refuses to dry himself. You're handed a soft towel, linen woven with golden threads, scented with chrysanthemum and neroli. You kneel beside the bath, arms outstretched, waiting for him to step out. He does, slowly, dripping, quiet. You hold the towel toward him. He doesn't take it. You wait. He stares at you, not in defiance, but in something older, something stranger. His eyes are calm, his skin slick with droplets that catch the light like morning on temple bells. You whisper, "My lord, your robe," but he shakes his head before you finish. "I must remain wet," he says softly. You blink. It's not a joke. This is Prince Atsuhira, 7 years old, heir apparent, already wiser than anyone you've met, and as of this morning, inducted into the inner path of quiet radiance. You were warned. He's different now, the Chamberlain told you. Don't treat him like a child, or a prince. Just ... observe. So you do. The ritual was brief. A bath drawn from the lotus well. Milk of water lilies added. No steam, no heat, only stillness. The temple monks watched from behind a screen. You weren't allowed to speak, only to pour. You thought it was a baptism. It wasn't. It was something deeper, something ... transformative . And now the boy won't dry. You follow him through the hall, careful not to step on the wet footprints he leaves behind. He doesn't walk quickly. He moves like a thought halfway through a sentence. Servants part for him. Guards bow and turn their eyes. You pass a court official muttering, "He's begun the practice of permeation." Another responds, "Too early." Perhaps. They don't stop walking. Later, you learn what they meant. There's a sect barely known, mostly whispered, that believes water remembers more than skin. That drying oneself interrupts the spiritual absorption process. That for an emperor to be, staying wet is staying open. The belief is rare, discreet, reserved only for chosen heirs. You're not sure what's harder to believe, the philosophy or the fact that everyone simply accepts it. But then again, this is a palace where baths decide politics and ghosts schedule visits. So you follow. He sits in the meditation chamber, dripping onto the tatami. No one tells him to stop. An attendant silently swaps out the mat beneath him every 5 minutes. He nods politely each time, as if saying thank you without words. At lunch, he eats in silence, water still clinging to his wrists. A drop falls into his rice bowl. No one blinks. By evening, you notice something. He's not cold, not shivering. The air around him warms slightly as he walks. You hold your hand out once, curious, and swear the droplets hanging from his sleeve are warmer than your own skin. Rumors start almost immediately. He wept during prayers, and the water glowed. He touched a scroll, and the ink wrinked itself. He spoke to a crane, and it bowed. Historians, naturally, remain divided. Some claim he was simply a curious boy playing along with monastic rituals. Others believe he genuinely altered his constitution, became, in some mystical way, permeable, a vessel, a conduit for the divine through moisture. You don't know what to believe. All you know is this: when he sleeps, he refuses to be dried. He lies on a bed of soft moss soaked in spring water, covered not with cloth, but with mist caught in silken netting. He dreams. And sometimes he speaks in those dreams. You're present one night when he whispers. Dry skin forgets, wet skin remembers. You don't write it down, you just sit beside him, holding the unused towel in your lap, and wonder what it means to truly soak in a life you haven't lived yet, and whether drying off is really the end of a bath, or the beginning of forgetting. They bathe him for the last time at dusk. The chamber is quiet, dimly lit by beeswax candles. No incense, no chanting, just the scent of dried lotus petals and the hush of those who know that every movement now is memory. The emperor has passed, not suddenly, not violently, just quietly, as if he'd followed his own breath out of the world. You'd seen him only 2 days ago, sitting by the koi pond, watching the fish ripple the surface without throwing a single pebble, and now he is still. Tonight's ritual is not for the living, it is for the journey, for the passing, the final bath. You were chosen to assist, not because of rank, but because of proximity. You'd served in his bathing quarters for years. You knew the folds of his robes, the warmth of his favorite water temperature, the exact blend of oils he preferred. In spring, that sort of knowledge doesn't come from scrolls. It comes from staying close. The bath is shallow, oval, lined with black lacquer. The water has already been drawn. Not hot, not cold, just enough to hold the body without shock. You can see it glint silver with the last light of evening. They carry him in, wrapped in white silk. No crown, no sash, just a single cord of red around his wrist, the thread of continuation, a whisper from one world to the next. You help unwrap him. His skin is pale but peaceful, like porcelain long kept in shadow. You lift his hand, guide it into the water. The body follows, held with care by the palace's oldest monks, and then the washing begins, not with cloth, but with brushes made of crane feathers, dipped in honeyed water and lotus milk. Each stroke is slow, measured, across the brow, the neck, the chest, over joints that once bowed to gods and signed decrees. No words are spoken, only gestures. The head monk begins to hum a low tone that barely registers in your ear, but seems to vibrate through the bones of the room. You feel it in your hands. As you rinse the emperor's feet, you feel it in your chest when you lay camphor leaves gently across his shoulders. This is not a cleansing, it is a conversation, a last message to the body. You remember, suddenly, one thing he once said during a bath years ago, half asleep, eyes closed. When I go, I want to be washed with nothing that ever had to fight for beauty. And so, there is no salt, no fire. Only softness. Only silence, only still water. The final rinse is made from dew gathered from the temple bell before dawn. One small bowl, you pour it over his hands. A drop falls and lands on the stone, leaving no mark. They lift him from the bath and wrap him once more, this time in white, layered with silk the color of fog. You fold the robe edge gently beneath his chin. Someone lays a branch of white plum across his chest, and just like that, he is gone. Not dead, departed. Later you're left to drain the water. The task is yours alone. You don't rush. Each ladle into the floor basin feels like letting go of a chapter. The water moves slower now, as if reluctant. You wipe the tub dry, light the candle one last time, then extinguish it with your breath. The room darkens. You sit for a while, hands still damp, unsure whether to feel honored or hollow. Eventually you leave, but not before glancing back. The chamber looks smaller now, quiet in a new way, not empty, but full of something you cannot name. And perhaps that's the truth of it. In the end, bathing was never about the body, it was about the moments between. The warmth before the world touches you again, the silence before the next name is called, the breath between emperors. The candle has burned low, your eyes are heavy. The scent of lotus and wood smoke is barely there now, like a memory folding in on itself. So close your eyes. Breathe. Let the stories linger, like steam curling around your thoughts. You've walked through centuries tonight, bathed in customs, in mystery, in myth. You've seen emperors as children, shadows, ghosts, and gods. But now, it's time to leave them. They're already fading into the mist, just as they should. So rest now. Let the lights dim. Let the fan hum. Soft. Let the water go still. Let the night carry you. Let the dream begin.